good afternoon to all our attendees and esteemed panel members. I would request all participants to kindly place your Zoom audio on mute and have your video switched on so that our panel members can view all participants. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce HRAI, which is a non-profit organization. It is a body established to enable community members to explore, discuss, and understand the current scenarios. This team works primarily on getting subject matter experts together to share their knowledge and provide real-time strategic solution covering all aspects of HR and other business enabling services. HRAI takes an immense pleasure in welcoming you all to our today's panel discussion, Certainty in Uncertainty. Hear it from the corporate frontiers. Without taking much time, I will start with a quick round of introduction of our esteemed panel members. To begin with, Mr. Nishit Shah, Senior Vice President, Birlasoft. He comes with over 23 plus years of experience. He is a finance professional with an acute sense of numbers and is a qualified chartered accountant having expertise into system integration, eye on automation, process improvement, and future strategic execution. Mr. Vinay Trivedi, Head of Human Resource Tone Tag. He comes with over 15 years of experience, field of talent management, talent engagement, and talent acquisition across IT, ITES, banking, insurance, and fintech sector. Mr. Sachin Mathur, Human Resource, Adani Exports. He comes with over 16 plus years of experience in the field of HR and ER, having worked with pharma, automobile, consumer durables, and ITES industries. He has played a major role in HR strategy, merger and acquisition, performance management, manpower planning, employee engagement, leadership development, and organization development. Last but not the least, the moderator for today's event, Dr. Ankita Singh, Senior Vice President and Global Head HR, IT, Travel, and Admin at Signex Datamatics. She comes with 19 years of progressive experience in managing and leading various aspects of human resource, spanning across high-paced business domains of ITES. She has recently been awarded almost among the Forbes India Top 100 Great People Manager by the study conducted by GMI India. Without taking much time, I would now request Dr. Ankita Singh to take over the session from here. Over to you, Dr. Ankita.
Thank you so much, HRAI and Nishit, Sachin, and Vinay. Thanks once again for accepting our invite and joining us as panel members. Obviously, topic is known to everybody, very common. Everybody is concerned about current situation. And we are not very sure which are the things which are very certain and at the same time where uncertainty lies. Can we do much about uncertainty? Probably not, because we don't even know what is in store for us. But there are a couple of things which we are certain about, and we know that those things can be controlled by us. How HR is playing a critical role in managing people and business at the same time, also which includes culture. And finance, we have added Nishit for a very particular reason, because HR has always thought, and as Nishit, before we started with this discussion, he said HR is very emotional, which obviously we cannot take away from HR. They should have emotional aspect attached in a balanced manner, but ROI has to be attached to whatever we are doing. And that's where finance team or most of our CFOs, they come back to us and they ask, we are perfectly fine with this initiative, but how do you think we get ROI on it? So that's why we will have a very interesting combination of discussion. What we have done earlier, we thought that we will frame our own questions, but while we opened it for registration, participants gave approximately 35 to 36 questions. And out of those, we requested panel members to address few. The rest of the questions, we will again request them to answer, and we'll share later through WhatsApp or email. So first, obviously, things are not very positive, but I'm sure most of us are very hopeful that things will be back to normal very soon. And whatever best should be done should be done at the right time, and we should be able to contribute. So on a positive note, I would start with Vinay. Vinay, one of the questions which one of our registered participants have asked is how to be more optimistic and move ahead in the field of HR and in the near future to come as in our career.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, HRAI, for getting all of us together. I think it's going to be a fun and a very good panel discussion that we will have. To your question on how to stay positive, first, there are two parts to your question. Right? On how to stay positive or how to sort of stay sane in these insane times. I think what is critical and what has helped me is what I will share, and I have written about this on different platforms as well, is switch off all your telephone notifications on any news item that flashes on your screens. Stop watching news for more than 5-6 minutes in a day. If possible, just read through for 5-6 minutes, but nothing beyond that. Stop discussing the pandemic and how the pandemic is going to ruin everybody's lives, because the reality is that this is here to stay. We are all having, now we are in that scenario where we know that we have to live with this. We have just taken this lockdown as a preparation method of how we can fine tune our brain to sort of accept this reality and move ahead. If you want to stay sane, just stay away from negative conversations, and that itself will give you tremendous amount of positive energy, because you're not sucking your energy off through negative thoughts, and things should start working for you. As far as your career, and I think HR assumes greater importance, because people believe that HR is your friend, philosopher, and guide. Also can have a magic wand that will take everybody through this difficult situation. So a career in HR at this point in time is a fabulous, I think I'm blessed that I'm in HR and I'm able to sort of share such positive messages to so many people. So anybody who's thinking of a career in HR, this is absolutely your best time to be there.
Thank you so much, Vinay. That's a very apt point, because HR is probably the only team which is getting the opportunity to connect with employees and at the same time with the organization, and they are able to see the bigger picture. Major responsibility lies on their shoulders, that they communicate well, they connect all the dots properly. So very, very well said. Nishit, I'll come next to you. When we talk about, obviously HR knows this is their responsibility and they have to manage one side of the picture, but budget plays a very important role. Whatever initiatives you want to do, even now when everything has gone online, there are certain things which HR would want to change, because they want to still communicate, they want to engage, training modules have changed, and that definitely involves cost. So my question related to that, and again asked by one of the participants, is permanent work from home the future for small software industries? One, and definitely how you think HR is enabling the entire thing, and is it going to be the new norm as everybody is expecting it to be? Nishit, you are on mute, so you need to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I think some issue with the technology, but yeah. Thanks, Ankita, and thanks, HRA, for giving us an opportunity to come on this particular platform. Now, coming directly to the question on whether the work from home, or is it going to be a permanent solution, or is it going to be a temporary phase? I mean, it's a mixed box in the current situation. But before we go there, let's look at a little bit of backwards in an IT industry. When we look at today, I think we still have 10 to 15% of our population still working from home. So it's not that this is a new norm which has created where people are working from home. We did have that options early also, and it was nicely managed by the HR. I mean, if you look at the whole process or whole policy from an HR perspective, the policy was rightly written. Uh, it's only the way the people are looking at it. I mean, that's the question. So while working, say, maybe when you say today 90% or 100% of population working from home is a different norm. But if you look at a smaller population, yes, the norm did exist before this particular COVID-19 situation. So coming back on say small software or IT industry, the patience is going to be little longer. Keeping in mind that even though the initial lockdown opens up, the government is going to put lot of restrictions, lot of rules around how the offices needs to be open up and how the restrictions are going to get implemented. So even in those conditions, I think a lot of people may not directly open up the whole culture of coming to office. You may have a phase-wise operations, and the whole phase-wise operation depend on each city, each state, on where the company operates. So some company can really gear up and maybe they can have say 20-30% of population starting immediately the day one. But in some cities, you may start with say 5%, 10%, and then may go to a higher percentage. But looking at the current norm and the current situation, and based on what we are reading in the news articles, doesn't seem to that getting a long-term solution right now on the COVID-19 situation. Keeping that into mind, uh, I think we are not going to see, at least for some time, not more than 50% of population in the office actually right now. That's the current situation. But I mean the other side of the story is the work from home itself has a long-term advantage both for the employee and for the organization as a whole also. And the best thing for an employee that he has a complete flexibility for working. Work-life balance is a better. I mean the health level or the stress level can also go down. And so there's a lot of advantage. You're not traveling yourself, so you can spend an extra time on either health or with family. It also means that indirectly also saving some money by working from home actually. So that's from an employee point of view. But when I look from an organization point of view, it also helps you to hold on to the operation cost. I mean, you can have a leaner operation cost. You can look at lower attrition levels because people would be happy working from home. You have a lesser management at an office level because more people come to office. You have more issues to manage offices. And the least a lot, I mean, they can also look at diversity. I mean, today the biggest problem that people face is to hold on to the diversity ratio. I think but this one reason is that when you allow a lot of people to work from home, it's going to help to protect or increase the diversity ratio within the organization. But having said that, in the whole gamut of things, we are not looking at angle of customer. So the main angle is going to be customer. Are we servicing the customer, and are we delivering what the customer needs? That's going to be a crucial aspect of how people are going to really work either from offices or from home actually. In IT industry, we might have a specific problem where certain industry or certain sectors may not allow you to work from home, especially looking at the banking sector or the insurance sector where there are a lot of data, there are a lot of privacy norms in the countries and in the global environment, which can put a lot of restriction on how people work from home. But having said that, these are just the limitations. Today, when I look at most of the IT companies, we have seen almost 85 to 90% of the populations are able to work from home. So the norm is going to change. And I'm hoping that the norms are going to be better written by each of the countries as we open up the whole lockdown scenarios. And it is going to be a long-term solution where people can work from home. And that would mean that maybe instead of people working from larger or metro cities, they can still work from a smaller cities actually. I mean, that's the aim. You can go back to your smaller cities. You can have a better say lifestyle, lesser pollution based cities and industry. So I'm hoping that it really happens, but I don't have the real answer that is it going to be a long term solution. But if I look at a horizon of at least for 12 months right now, it is going to be a work from home situation for some time. I mean, that's what I'll take a pause here, but I mean that's my view right now.
Absolutely. I agree that to an extent it has become a new norm, but as very rightly pointed by you, a lot of things depend on government regulations, norms decided by them. And at the same time, very aptly put that it's going to be a mixed bag as per the need of individual organization, their client requirement and their capability. They'll decide on certain point and that will define individual plan for each organization. So thank you, Nishit. Next, I come to Sachin. Obviously, people are working from home, and that's completely new. We assume that things are more comfortable, but people keep complaining that they are working for 24 hours as compared to 8 hours earlier. It's assumed that they are available for 24 hours because they are at the comfort of their home, and it's taken in a wrong manner, and people are not able to balance their work and life. So the question is, how do HR ensure, or how can HR ensure employees mental health and well-being during this crisis and during the time when they are working from home? What role HR is playing, and how do you think you can control it?
So thanks, Ankita. Now, coming to the first part of the question, that employees are expected to be available 24/7. Now, for this, HR has to play an important role in organization where you set up a certain norm that the people will be available between this time to this time. So just to give you an example, we've kind of looked at we should have a disciplined day, which means employees should be available at 9:30 in the morning, right? I'm saying although you're working from home, but we will have certain method by which we all will work from home. So 9:30 in the morning they're there, and all the meetings have to be done till 12 o'clock. Then the another set of timing starts from 2:30 and it goes to 5:30. So like how in office we used to have flexi working hours, we've made sure that these are core working hours that we have. So all people should be made available, should be available. uh, and although you have flexibility of house, but we all have to collaborate and work. So we all will have decided this is how we will do it, and this is helping us because people know the core working hours and therefore they're able to be present. Now, coming to the other side of the question about the mental health, well, more than the work from home, the whole story of what's happening with COVID is creating more of anxiety. Uh, Although mental health was a problem before COVID as well, but this has bring about new elements of pay cut. So pay cut is all right, but suppose I have to pay a EMI of my house, how do I pay my EMI? Government policies have come in, but anxiety is one big issue that all the HR folks have to deal with. uh, so pay, whether I'll have pay cut, whether my job will be left or not. So these are some real questions that people are addressing, and organizations, let me tell you, are trying hard enough. Government is also trying hard enough to do it, but employees will also have to put a hand up to reduce the anxiety, that they have to themselves look at methods of how will they keep themselves motivated. So if the time permits, I have few slides which are there, which which I can take if we have some time left. So
Sure.
these are some thoughts that I have uh, on mental health and the kind of discipline that people need to have from work from home. Right. Do you want me to share the slides?
Yes, Sajjan, you can
Okay.
go ahead.
Uh, so, well, when I was asked to speak about this subject, I really thought that how to bring about, some thought process in how do we work in this uncertainty. We need to have certain model to look at. So, can everybody see the slide?
Yes.
Lovely. Uh, so, uh, So, what's the most uncertain thing today, as it has always been, is the future. Now, whenever we want to think about it, every time this is the best answer that people have always given, that you have to decide what the future will be. Uh, and this is an important element of we coming out of this sort of mental anxiety, which I'm saying everybody will have, that what will happen to my job if the revenues are not coming, how would my promoter again pay me my salary? But you will have to look at how do you build up your future, things beyond the role that you're doing. Can you have one or two more areas that you can think of working on? And probably you can refer to what Vinod has put a lot of videos on how to be kind of relatively making sure that you are there. Then finally, one of the things is what Charles Darwin said is it's not the strongest of the people who get through. It's the survival of the fittest, and that's what Charles Darwin had brought in. And therefore, at this time, we will have to actually work on ourselves so that we make sure that we emerge strong enough as we come out of this pandemic. And we are sure that we're going to come out. It's not going to end. It has happened in Spanish flu, World War II. You had two bombs, atomic bombs. I think the human race will be able to come over it. Now, to come out of this, I have put some model on COVID, which is called as the COVID attitudes. I'm still working on this, and there are few people who are clinical psychologists. We are working together in a model that how do we look at this. So what we said is we're going to look at stimulus and response as a basic fundamental of how do we work around this. So we'll call it a C attitude. First of all, if you look at the current environment, it is very chaotic. Everything is chaotic. And when we looked at how do we bring some relief to the chaos, we are saying, okay, we should try to see clarity. See clarity and make sure that we are not overdone by the information, but we have to have constant method of getting right set of information. Then about, we all can get obsolete. So for example, if you look at the past generation of people who are not very tech savvy, they're finding it very difficult to come on VCs and calls, which are absolutely normal. Business will continue because of that. So therefore, we all have to reinvent and rediscover ourselves. And it's important. Otherwise also, but this time it's very important so that if any eventuality happen, you should be prepared to do something else as well. Vulnerable. COVID has made us very, very vulnerable. So you have to constantly scan your environment. What's happening? Are you in a red area? Are you not safe enough? Or are your people or colleagues around you can be at risk? So stay cautious at all times. Now next future is intelligent system. We have to live with technology and intelligent system, because since you all the people, maybe senior leaders, you don't know how many meetings you have to go into. This meeting, then the audit meeting, this finance meeting, budgets are getting revised. So your calendars are booked with multiple meetings. So you need to have intelligent system, which is automatically going to help you organize yourself. So there's lack of anxiety that you have. And finally, dependency. I think our social and nearby group has become so important. It is not, earlier we said, oh, I have a friend in London, I have a friend in Singapore and things like that. But now we are saying, boss, my maid is the most important thing in life. And I've actually realized now I didn't have my maid's number. Now I have my maid's number on my mobile as well. So the social structure itself will change. People will now look at how do you build more stronger social group within the small space of people that you are. So love thy neighbor is what will be back. And finally, the greatest discovery of all time is the person can change his future by, merely changing his attitude. So we will have to learn a few things after COVID. Work from home, we have to make sure that all the people, we have to also have a responsibility of senior colleagues in our organizations. They may not be comfortable. We have to make sure that they also are comfortable and not become obsolete. So these are few thoughts which I had put together before. I thought that as I have to speak, there should be some framework for people to look at.
Thank you, Sachin. I think I have already received so many messages in chat window. If we can have this presentation, we want to positively share it with our team members, and I'm sure it will help. So thank you so much for presenting it. Very valid, very well presented, and I'm sure it will help a lot of us.
Sure. The only point is disclosure is these are my personal views and may not be my organization stand as well. I want to put that disclosure on the table.
Yes, we completely understand, and that will be respected. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. Very valid. I think we could have not, even if we would have tried, we cannot put it in that manner. It's very thoughtful. Thank you for sharing that. In connection with this, I would want to ask Vinay, when a person has asked what are the new practices which has emerged and working well in respective organization, and again, unfortunately, two parts of the question. In today's condition, how do we keep employees connected to the organization while being work from home?
All right. So, see, I think, Sajjan, thanks for that. I'd like to have a copy of that. It's a very well put presentation. See, what is critical and what everybody needs to understand. Pandemic like this will come and go. Okay, we have survived 5,000 years of civilization as human beings. We will continue to survive. So survival of the fittest is the way, we've always lived. If you think about it, when the lockdown started about 8 weeks back, it was a very, very new thing and everybody was talking about it. If you realize now, people are slowly thinking, oh, we have to now go back to work. Maybe lockdown is going to open up. So that's the beauty of your mind. It fine-tunes to situations and scenarios very well. Of course, nobody likes changes. I mean, even if there is a change of pillow, sometimes you would not get a good night's sleep. So as human beings, we do not like changes. But when we are pushed into it, we tend to automatically start getting used to it. Okay, so I think from that perspective, this is, I think it's an opportunity for this world to wake up to new reality. In my view, and when Nishit was talking about it and Sachin was also talking about it, work from home is not a permanent thing or not a temporary thing. Thankfully, this will bring logic into what can be work from home, should be working from home. What needs to come to office will come to office. A lot of times people thought everything has to happen only in office. So that attitude will change. I think to a lot of HR folks, this is an opportunity you can encash on when you talk to your business leaders in rationalizing what can be done from home, what needs to come to office. This is an opportunity which all the HR folks can capitalize on to push your leaders for virtual interview platforms, all that you were struggling in a lot of sense when they'll say, can you call? We need to see one time. We need to have one face-to-face. A lot of those things will change. Definitely, that's a very critical thing. As far as connecting with people is concerned, I always say connect dil se. I'm a very emotional person, and a lot of my views are full of emotions when I express them as well. We have been doing one thing that I encourage all of you to start doing with your people, and that's really helped. We were doing this even when we were in office. We do something called as weekly gossip meetings. We actually get on a Zoom call like this for 30-40 minutes as a team, and we actually gossip. We officially gossip. Now, what it does is it allows people to vent out a lot of things in their mind and heart. It also gives them reassurances that they're not the only one, but there are multiple other people who are also going through the same thing when people keep gossiping. And I think gossip is very good for health if you do it for half an hour every week. So it's a very unconventional thing that I say, but it really works. And I'm sure it works currently in smaller groups. Whenever you have a team call, then you have 3-4 people who get onto one more call and talk to each other about what happened on that call, right? We do that officially for everybody. So if you want to create that genuine connect, I think you should start that. Second thing is, I think you should tell your managers if they're struggling to trust. I mean, Ankita just mentioned that people are expected to be there 24/7 connected. I think we need to trust our people. We sometimes tend to give work just because we think they may not have enough work for 8 hours and they're working from home. So let us give them some work. So they'll suddenly start cataloging a lot of things. They'll start working on processes, which you will never use, right? They'll start auditing documents, which is of no use. But because as a leader or as a manager, you want some work out of them. Please don't do that. It really irritates anybody who knows that this work is just given so that I have some work on my plate. Play online games once a week. It definitely works. I mean, we've had fights over Ludo games. We've had fights over so many online games as teams, and we love it. And that's our ego battles. When I'm defeating my boss in a Ludo, it's like it's somewhere that I got even. It's just fun. I think instead of just doing work all the time and thinking of how you can work, how you have to, sending guidelines of log in at 9 o'clock, be available on phone call, please respond to emails, please take work very seriously. I mean, breathe, yeah, and smile. Everybody is in deep shit as far as this new world is concerned. So the least we can do is give them that comfort. So if you want to connect genuinely, play games, gossip with your teams, you will see a lot more productive people on board, and trust them. Don't nag them just because you have 8 hours of work that you have to track. You will see people much more happy in, sort of dealing with this. That's my 3 cents.
Thank you. I think it's very evident in your LinkedIn posts, which I'm sure a lot of us from HR, when I click on your post, I see a lot of common connections, which are probably not directly connected, but each one of us are following, reading and learning from those. So it will really help all of us. What I understand, yes, definitely you need to connect with them, have trust and have fun. If you take care of these 3 things primarily, probably most of the things will fall in place automatically. So thank you. Thanks a lot, Vinay. Nishit, coming back to you, uh, I don't know, difficult question or easy, but given by participants, so I'll take it up. What will be the post-lockdown measure taken by organizations? And we definitely want to hear it from you from finance point of view as well, and probably the bigger picture too, if that can be included. Nishit, you need to unmute. Yeah.
I think there's a central control somewhere which doesn't allow you to unmute yourself. So even I was trying.
Who can do this? Finance guy.
Yeah, I know. I was getting a little irritated with the guy who was trying to control myself.
Luckily, that person is not a part of your organization. Whosoever is doing it, stop doing it.
No, I think somebody was saying about the host. I was just looking at Ankita saying why she's not trying to unmute me. And keep saying
I'm not the host. Yeah. So,
yeah, uh, so I think you touch upon two quick parts. One, what are the measures that the organization will take, and the other is the bigger picture. So maybe I'll first spend time on the measures that the organization will take. I mean, I don't want to make it too complicated, so I'm going to look at the basic ones and stuff like that. I think the first thing that comes to the mind of people on what they're going to do. I think before you open the lockdown or before you even try to get the employees to office, there's going to be a long list of planning sessions actually, or maybe we can say them as a detailed planning sessions on who has to come to office. I mean, that's the first step for any org to do before they even say that we're going to open offices for the employees actually. So my first thing is that detailed planning is going to be the first norm. The second thing is you're going to have a lot of scanners in the offices. I mean, whether it can be a physical scanner where somebody scans the thing, or they can have a automatic thermal scanners installed in offices. Either way, but obviously you're going to have scanners in your offices, which we can measure the body temperatures across the time, and just not once or twice in a day. A lot of organizations, a lot of sanitation rules actually, hygiene and cleanliness rules. It will also mean that when you come with your vehicle, the vehicle has to be completely scanned when you enter. So those are some of the measures that the company has to take before even people come into the offices. The other basic norms is going to come is, say, wearing masks, don't overcrowd the cafeteria. All those basic norms are going to get, say, sort of implemented by the org. When you look at a bigger picture or look at other from org perspective, they might have a complete ban on travel. They'll have a complete ban on having large training sessions. They'll have a complete ban on maybe conferences, and all those participation will be completely banned from org side to avoid any further spreading or risk of spreading the pandemic across the employees. So these are some of the measures that will come up. But if you're really looking at tough measures which are going to come up, or the bigger picture that you're referring to, either directly or indirectly, in a finance terminology, we call them as a going concern. I don't know whether I mean it's going to be more and more technical, but uh, it's an impact to the organization and to the cash flow of the organization. So that's going to be a critical aspect from a bigger picture perspective. But how good is the cash flow for the organization, and how are we going to maintain the cash flow for the organization for next 6 to 12 months? These are the critical aspects that any finance organization or any member from the finance organization derives to the top management for a bigger picture role. And if you have derived those particular derive that particular aspect of the company, you're going to see a lot of cost cutting measures or cost optimization measures which are going to come across the organization. I'm not going to refer a pay cut or a salary cut here as a direct measure. I think that's the last measure that most of the organization would like to take. They're going to look at all the measures which are going to be uh, can be cut as a temporary phase. Let's say maybe any entertainment event, any budget for project parties, any unnecessary travels. Do you want to cut down on unnecessary training aspects? Don't invest in any new projects. And a lot of say don't open up new offices. Don't renovate the offices. Those are the basic thing that they'll just cut left, right, center without even looking at whether they are relevant, not relevant. They say these are all non-relevant, and they'll cut it. The budget that they would like to give and the HR would like to look at it is going to be the whole reskilling budget. And what are the activities that the people can do to connect with the people, so because the connection of people is going to be critical during the work from home. So these are the amount of investment that the company would like to do, and those amounts will be available for all the HR folks. Say reskilling of people, how do we have a better connection with the people, say health and safety for the employees. I mean those aspects are going to be critical aspect where the budgets would be created. Actually it was not there in an earlier phase of life. It's going to be created for the people. So if you look at from that perspective, it's going to be a mixed box. We're going to cut from one pocket, but we're going to make budgets available in another pocket so that it can be spent back on the employees. And that's how the finance organization looks at it. I mean, while we are the most uh, bad guys in the system, or well, unknown people in the system where people don't like to meet us at all because they're going to tell that I'm going to cut the budgets. But that's fine. I mean, we live our life in this particular fashion. But the truth of the story is that when somebody has to front end the external world and say, is the organization going to survive? Only the finance guys are going to come and stand in front saying, okay, we'll ensure that the company is going to survive. So I mean that's the bigger picture. If I boss or the CEO comes and asks me, Nishit, are you going to survive? I say yes, you're going to survive for next 12 to 18 months. I don't know about the future, but I can definitely tell you that my org will survive for next 12 to 18 months without any issues with the org. So that's a kind of confidence we have to give back to the CXOs from the finance organization that will ensure that everything runs the way we want the organization to work.
Absolutely, Nishit. I think finance is the driver and probably HR becomes the co-driver. Uh, Nobody can work in a silo, and very aptly put. I think Kitty will move from one pocket to another pocket. Things which were ignored so far, probably we'll be emphasizing more on that, and it'll be a balance which will be created in the system. But when we check with employees, once this lockdown is lifted and you are called to office, will you be comfortable going to office? And mostly what I have received as a reply is no, we are not sure if our office is going to be as safe as home. And definitely no employer would be able to very confidently say, because thousands of employees in the same campus, and regulating and controlling everything is probably beyond one's limit and control. So somebody has asked, which I would want Sachin to address: how can one be very sure about overcoming this situation of COVID-19? And once we are back in office, how do we ensure and how do we give comfort to ourselves that things are normal and we can be 100% productive and we can trust the system and people around? Do you think HR can play a very important role in this and can regulate it?
See, HR definitely has to play an important role to make sure that we have clear guidelines on how it is to be done. These things cannot be managed without guidelines. As we will move back to office, you are right, people will not be sure. Nobody would be sure for that matter. having said that, there are processes and systems which government is making to make sure that people are safe at workplace, or when they come together close to each other, they are safely working. The only way is to look at what are the right protocols that one can have. Nishit has already said that work from home. First, evaluate what can be done from home, then make sure what is needed definitely in the office. Uh, and let's face it, it's been 60 days. We all have been working, and I think it's more or less going. It's only the sale is not happening, but everything else I believe is happening. Uh, so I think second thing will be to make sure whoever is required should come to office, and then personal hygiene. But yeah, there are a lot of questions. We have to make sure that we should start as lean as possible until the time our zone becomes green. I think there's an extra caution that HR will have to exercise with people. Uh, so that's what my thought is. Follow the guidelines as they exist. Make sure the organization is as lean as possible while going to office. Uh, and frankly speaking, I think everything is now gone online. I'm sure people, apart from normal meeting, board meetings are all right. Online, people are doing board meetings. I am getting my dividends of the shares. Rights issues are happening. So I think if that big things can happen online, I'm sure we all can be at home till the time it really becomes green. See, for our organization, I think what I want, why I would like to go to office is to pick up another laptop that I want, or my laptop has some trouble. Other than that, all of us have kind of learned the process of working remotely. However, it's too hard. Let me be honest. You just keep on. Everybody can put a timeline on your calendar, and then you may have to follow it, follow up, and things like that is happening. But yeah, follow the guidelines which are given. Make sure you open as lean as possible, and only people who have to uh, go to office are the people who have to really think about, collectively think. So that's the thing that I believe. But and let's pray and hope that everything turns green.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we are all in trying and testing mode. And as you rightly said, it will come as and when days right in front of us. And whatever clicks for us, we need to stick to it. And otherwise, we just need to review and renew our processes. Vinay, we are already at 3:44, so hardly 15 minutes before we wind up. So we will start taking questions which are coming here in chat box. But before that, one more question which I would want Vinay to answer. Somebody has asked, what are, and very valid and apt question, what are the employment options for highly qualified and experienced professionals facing layoff as part of the cost optimization? Obviously, they are not at fault. They are really good, but because of the situation, they are stuck. So what do you suggest for
I
them?
think, for highly qualified people, this is going to be a blessing in disguise. What used to happen earlier is, because you're highly qualified and you are a part of an organization, you use a certain percentage of your skills to deliver on whatever is required. Now, those organizations may not be able to afford you full time, which gives you an opportunity, and which we've been talking in books for a long time. Of course, startups and a lot of small organizations have used it very well, but now I think it'll open up to a lot of large organizations as well, which is your gig economy. All these highly qualified people can actually have opportunities to work with 2 or 3 different organizations where they're able to contribute their expertise. So for them, it's going to be an advantage that they are not limited to just a certain thing, but they are actually looking at a variety. From an organization's perspective, I may not need somebody highly qualified for 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, but I may just need for a couple of hours. So your consultant model or the gig economy is definitely going to take shape in a big way, and that's a blessing in disguise, in fact. So while it may look like, oh, what's going to happen, but it's actually going to work in their favor. So that's my perspective, and that's how I see them being best utilized.
Sure. Thank you so much. That was quick. I can see a lot of questions and we just have a couple of minutes. So what I would suggest, because these are directed to panel members by name, so I'll quickly go and round. Would request each panel member to wind up as quickly as possible so that we can move to next question.
Some of them have already answered
Yes,
in the chat box. So
I could see.
if you want to ignore them and take fresh questions, because I've sort of given specific responses as well.
Sure.
Unless, because I think everybody can read this.
Definitely. I think the one which is asked to Nishit, sir, I want to ask that there are some managers who feel like this all engagement things are waste of time and they don't allow their HR departments to do so. So in such a situation, what we can do, how we can keep our employee engaged. Yes, Nishit, so they seek suggestion from you.
So, I mean, for keeping the employee engaged, you need not necessarily have or need to have an absolute money or budget available. I mean, if you look at particular aspect of thing that Vinay mentioned, he did mention about certain you can go and play online games. You can do a lot of gossip activity. Maybe you can do some a lot of say good practices that you hear about or hear say about what's happening across the organization or especially a set of people. If you try to create those small activities, there's no need to have there's always no need to have money to do some engagement actually. There are a lot of things which can be done without money actually. And in this kind of situation, all the things are going to be much critical, especially when you are remotely working actually.
Sure, and I think HR people have also agreed and they have accepted that when it comes to engagement and the fun part, as Vinay mentioned and as Nishit also just added, there are many options where we don't need budget. When we talk about the engagement part, which is level 2, and when we talk about training and reskilling or upskilling of employees, then when it's needed, trust me, we go back to finance with ROI and they have always approved it. So again, there are brackets, pockets, and those are respected. So next question is, it is asked by Neetu. From a sales perspective, getting a new acquisitions are really challenging. How can we manage that? How HR can, how HR can we understand this?
How HR can understand this role? That's what she means.
So who wants to answer? Because I don't see any name against it.
I can.
Sure.
I can attempt. So a lot of sales definitions are changing. I give you an example because I used to work with a bank and an insurance company myself, where work from home could have never been thought about. Apart from the manufacturing setup where you need to be on the shop floor to manufacture stuff. I think sales is going to now change in a lot of ways with the given scenario. Online sales will catch up much more. People will now start picking up phone calls if there's a tele-sale because they would not want to meet that person in person. They would rather talk to the person on phone. So and this is a temporary period, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing is permanent. I mean, we are talking of uncertainty. We cannot be certain of how this will change, right? So it's just a temporary phase in which people will have to distance themselves when they look at sales. And it's going to be challenging. It's going to be challenging because the salesperson himself or herself is not used to doing a telesale. And the customer also is not used to really closing a deal on phone because we want the look and feel. We want to believe what the person is saying by seeing the person. So that's going to change. And now, because this pandemic has given us this scenario, a lot of people will accept this. So for a brief period, that will change, and then we'll slowly, as we get back to normalcy, we will slowly start doing things in a normal manner. As far as your over-the-counter sales or shop sales are concerned, they'll all resume and have already started resuming in some pockets in the country. They will continue to resume in other pockets once this phase 3 of lockdown gets over and phase 4 starts. So that will slowly pick up anyways.
Thanks. Thank you, Vinay. Then there is next question, which is from Rohit. My question is how the recruiters will see the upcoming hiring phase, what skills they would like to evaluate, and what can we make our students ready for?
So I think recruiters look at flexibility and adaptability, and we have been going to a lot of campuses and we keep telling about this. This is the time universities will have to showcase this. Okay, so the only skill that they'll have to prepare for is to sort of fine tune themselves to adapt to the reality and not be too rigid in the way they want their opportunities, because the world has changed, and the world has changed upside down in the last 2 months. So what will help them sail through is definitely being open about exploring new roles that are available or new opportunities that are available. That's my 2 cents, but I'll leave Sachin and you to as well add on perspective.
Sachin, you want to add? Nishit? Sachin,
Let
you're
me let me honest. Probably this is the toughest one to answer. Probably Vinay has put it much better, and I'll find lesser words to explain this. See, I think there is certain amount of patience also which will be required apart from skill and other things. Let's understand and let's have some hope. If the world is on a lockdown for 2 months, uh, I understand this placement season. Students are looking to get placed. If I were to be this, I would have had similar anxieties which are there. But let's assume that we are on lockdown for 2 months. Give it yourself another month or so to look at what else can be done. Okay, make sure that you skill yourself. The students skill themselves more. Apart from their education, what they've done, they should learn a couple of more skills which will be post-COVID skills which are required, and now those are all available online. But I think you all must have patience. uh, Expecting that organizations will come out and roll out the offers, it is at least 3 months away. And those who have offers, again, as I said, refer VT talks to understand how deep or how not, how difficult your time is. You have 5 point reference scale. You can always look to where you are, but don't get disappointed. If the world is locked down, everybody of us will have to give up some things. So that's my thought.
absolutely. Nishit, you want to add anything to
No,
this
I think Vinay and Sachin both covered it well, so I don't want to disturb the momentum of people got for them. So I think by being a finance guy, I better keep quiet in certain aspect of work actually.
So thank you, Sachin and Vinay, for this input. I think for students, I have heard one thing which is coming in from everywhere. Earlier, it was learn to work, and now it has moved to work to learn. There are a lot of organizations, they are giving you an opportunity to attach yourself with life projects as shadow resources. Just learn. Probably they'll not be able to pay looking at the current situation, but they are giving you projects to work on. I think students should take this opportunity and get themselves attached to these projects, and probably opportunities will also help you understand what corporate is all about and how you can make your mark there. Next question is again, Nishit, I will ask you this question, and probably Vinay and Sachin can add later. How corporates predict accepting work from home guidelines post COVID, resuming operations?
Okay, so it'll differ from organization to organization. But if you're looking at pure people-based organizations, which are more service-driven or more like an IT-based environment, it's accepted facts actually, and there are norms and policy well defined. So nothing is going to change in that particular norm. In fact, I mean, I'm going to go a step further to say that the corporate would be more interested, or the non-IT based corporates are going to figure out a mechanism of how to have more work from home options. Because in IT or in other service-based industry, it is simpler to work from home. So you are not dependent on a lot of other countries around the corporate actually. So my view is that it's going to be active, and I think right now when you look at the IT industry, I think 10 to 15% of population are accepted as work from home regularly. Maybe the norm might go to 25 to 40% over a period of time, and the percentage can be up and down with depending on what organization wants to do. But I think 25 to 40% would be the norm of work from home over a period of time. Actually, that's what I think you should look at it.
Sure, sure. Thank you. Vinay, Sachin, anything to add, or I can move to next question?
I think I don't have much to add to this. I think Nishit has said it. When the finance has said this, let's listen to it.
Okay, so I'll move to next question. Admin staff is, I think Vinay has already replied to one. I'm not sure if this one. Vinay, just let me know if I repeat any question which you have already answered. admin staff is working with all the employees who are coming from red and yellow zone. They are untrained fellow to fight present scenario, and they are not a trained soldiers. Safety measures for admin staff. I think they seek some suggestions.
I think, see, it's very critical that not just admin staff, but and the HR department should definitely take lead here to get these things moved. While even we do not know, because we are also following instructions that are coming our way, and everyday instructions are also changing. What is critical is that everybody who is expected to come into office from whatever zones that we call it or wherever else. One thing for sure you need to understand is when you meet somebody, assume that the other person has COVID. The minute you will assume that the other person has COVID, you will automatically maintain your 6 feet distance. You will say namaste instead of shaking hands. You will keep your mask intact without, keeping it under the nose or here just to, sort of tell the world that I'm actually wearing a mask. So one is the admin's approach has to be that tell people, assume that you meet anybody you meet has COVID. Second, all instructions that are being shared, you need to take a sign off from everybody who walks in that they understand, they have read, if required, take random tests so that, that sort of hits into their head and you start working. I mean, we have to live with this. The sooner we get on our feet and start accepting it and behaving maturely and living with it, the better for us to recover out of this. As simple as that. You're on mute, Ankita.
There's just 2 more minutes and 3 more questions, so I'll just take one probably. There are so many webinars going around on importance of HR people or importance of HR during the unprecedented time. Do you have answer?
Yeah. I in fact answered, but I'll just take a minute and explain that answer. Right. So Rali's question really is that while there is so much happening, people are still being laid off. People are still being trimmed. Even HR departments are being trimmed, etc., etc. See, the reality is that, and I've actually spoken about this in one of my LinkedIn VT talks as well. There is 6 types of impacts that you will have as far as jobs are concerned. One is you have a job, but no increment and no bonus. I think that's a brilliant scenario to be in. One is you have delayed bonus, delayed increment. I think even that is a brilliant scenario to be with. There could be some amount of cut for a couple of months so that everybody can be safeguarded. Even in that scenario, you will learn how to save more. You will learn how to reduce your wasteful expenses. I think it's an opportunity, even if you're in that situation where there's a 10%, 20% cut so that everybody's job is safe. Fourth is if, there could be an actual job loss. In that, if you're in that scenario, you have to look at how you can find a job instead of blaming yourself on why it happened to me, why is it only me, why not anybody else, so on and so forth. Instead of beating yourself up, look at how you can start applying for more jobs. And the last scenario is you may have resigned, you may have an offer, that offer is withdrawn, and where you've resigned, people are saying, no, you go now, we have found somebody to do your job as well. That could also be a scenario in which you have to accept the reality and start looking for opportunities. Please understand that this situation and no business has impacted every organization. So these 6 scenarios will depend on which organization is at which stage. Very few exceptions would go ahead, like Asian Paints announced today that they're going to give increments to their people to boost morale. So very few organizations have that appetite and have that money power to do that. So my suggestion is that whenever you see these kind of news, instead of talking negatively, just see how you can help that people and move ahead and accept it as a new normal.
Sure. Thanks, Vinay. There is one question in chat box. I would request you to reply because that's directed to you by Hardik Desai. Meanwhile, I'll ask Sachin one last question by Sonali. Reality is there is an impact. There are 4 to 5.
That is my answer to Sonali.
Oh, you.
Yeah, that is the response to Sonali.
Answer, okay. So, is there any question that we have left?
Majority people are afraid that what will happen after some time, especially post-COVID, how to explain them that 20 lakh Make in India mantra will help people. See, Hardik, and this is, I think, all of us are very famous on WhatsApp universities where we have these long debates about how there is doomsday and what is happening in this world, where we, often have furious conversations with relatives, friends, saying what the government is doing, who else is doing, etc., etc. My only suggestion is you can only control what is in your control. You can only do things that you can do. So what you should focus on is what you can do and how you can create an impact. Sachin, in fact, showed that on one of the slides on, how when he showed the Mahatma Gandhi slide, and if people remember, he spoke about it already. Ask what you can do and continue to do that. Please cut all of these things and explaining, and you have there's no burden on anybody's head to explain the package the government is giving or anything else. But if you can benefit and if you can show way to help somebody, do that and only focus on that. Everything will be fine. The world is not, breaking away.
Thank you, Sachin. You want to add anything? Because I think we are done with questions.
I think only thing is, all of you, please stay positive, stay to learn. Now after 45 days, I'm done away with whatever is available on Netflix, and now I'm watching random movies. But yeah, I think let's be hopeful of going out and playing around with kids and things like that. So yeah, let's keep ourselves going, and probably now we have learned the method of staying back. At least for me, I'm not getting too sick of staying at home. So I've kind of learned it. So maybe whole sociological system will change. Sociology as a subject has to be rewritten, I believe. May not be possible to have sociology anymore.
Sure.
So thanks.
Thank you, Sachin. Nishit?
I'm just going to tell people that we have a bright future ahead. So don't worry. Be safe and take care of yourself.
Sure. Vinay, any closing remarks from your end?
I just would say, just chill and have fun. This is a phase that you will talk about as stories 20, 30 years down the lane, saying that you are lucky you're not locked up in the house. We were locked up in the house for 60, 70 days. So, you are actually creating history. Make the best use of it. While there are bad news around us, we have to accept it and move ahead.
Absolutely. I think there will be a phase once upon a time, and there'll be a movie soon on it. When it started, I'm sure we all had this thing in mind that we will not be able to survive and we'll not be able to sail through, and it'll be never a normal thing. From there, we have moved to a mode where we have started thinking how we can utilize this time better and how we can come out with a better self. So mindset has already changed. It has shifted from a completely confused state to a stable one where we are thinking about growth. So things are positive, and thanks to each one of you, Sachin, Vinay, Nishit, very valid inputs. I'm sure we all are going back with a few things to implement, and probably every single point is so relevant that we'll be able to implement these in our organizations. Thanks for taking out time. I know it's not a weekend and everybody is working. Still, giving your 1.5 hours is recommended and commendable on each one of you part. Thanks once again. Over to HRAI, and thanks Sachin, Vinay, and Nishit.
Thank you so much. So it has been a pleasure being with all of you today. Thank you so much. We all had an insightful webinar. Thank you, Dr. Ankita, for moderating it so well. Thank you, Mr. Nishit. Thank you, Mr. Vinay and Mr. Sachin, for joining us as panel and sharing with us your insights and perspective, which will definitely help each one of us. I would also want to thank all our participants for joining us today. Looking at the time, we have tried to cover all the questions that were put up to us. In case if you all have any questions after the session, definitely you all can write it down to us in the email mentioned, as well as you can WhatsApp us. And, thank you once again.
Peter, one second before we wind up. I know it's not a selling platform, but VT Talks I personally follow, and the things that you get to hear and learn from it, I would definitely recommend everybody to follow that. And Sachin, please share that PPT so that we can share it with all the members. Vinay, those 6 stages, though I have it on LinkedIn, but I would want you to share a PPT or something that can be shared with this group.
It's on one of the VT Talks, so I'll share it on the HRAI group if required. That we have.
Sure. I'll share with other members. And Nishit, in case if you have anything, any stick that can be passed on to HR so that we start behaving and we start coming back to finance with ROI, just let us know. We'll be more than happy to follow that and understand the finance part of this story as well.
And, sorry, I'll just take 1 second, and I think it's very important.
Sure.
To all the participants, I think, and thanks to Ankita who's brought us here, we go, 7-8 months back when we actually met at Sambalpur for an HR conclave. And while we had our own things to do, but we were all on the same flight from Jharsuguda to Hyderabad, and from Hyderabad, some of us came back to Bangalore, and she went to Ahmedabad. And the amount of fun we've had on that flight, and that's why I think as a panel, we've just sort of come with all the positivity. Is everybody, one thing for sure is that none of us know about these pandemics. Nobody's experienced as much as you're seeing it. We are also seeing it for the first time in our life. But it's the thought process that each one of us have, which has pulled us out of this in a very positive manner. And I want to share this so that you understand that if you stay positive and you stay connected, it definitely helps. And thank you for bringing us together here.
Thank you so much for always being connected, and it was fun back in IIM Sambalpur, and it was much more fun today. Thank you so much for all your inputs. Thanks, Sachin. Thanks, Nishit. Bye. Thanks, HRAI once again.
Thank you once again, dear panel members, and all for joining.